Good morning. Right before this lesson I just read, right before it is the scene where Peter is a hero. Jesus takes his disciples to Caesarea Philippi. He says to them, "Who are people saying that I am?" And the disciples speak up. Well, some of them think that you're Elijah back from the dead. Some people think that you're John the Baptist back from the dead. And Jesus says, "Well, who do you say that I am?" And Peter says, "You are the Christ, the Messiah." And in Mark's gospel, Peter, right here, is the first person, the first human being who correctly identifies who Jesus is. And it's this great moment. And Peter, who had gone by Simon up to this point, Jesus says to them, "You are now Peter," rock, like it's where we get the word like petrified from. You are rock, and on this rock I will build my church. Like, you're going to become the foundation of this thing that I'm starting up. And then 30 seconds later, Jesus starts talking about how he's going to suffer. And he's going to be rejected by all the leaders of Jerusalem, and he's going to suffer and die. And Peter's like, "What?" And he, come here, psh, pulls Jesus aside, and is like, "You got to knock this off. Right? Like, no one's going to follow you if you keep talking about this like rejection and suffering thing. No one wants to, follow a loser. You need to be a winner, right? We are not going to have any of this talk anymore." I'm sure Peter was like, "Look, I left everything to follow you. This is embarrassing. You got to knock this off." And Peter, who is just extolled as the rock upon which Jesus is going to build his ministry, Jesus says to him, "Get behind me, Satan." It's quite a fall from grace within the matter of probably 5 to 10 minutes, right? "You are the rock I'm going to build this thing on. Get behind me, Satan." It's just like, whew. But Peter is probably not the only one feeling this. The other disciples certainly felt this too. They certainly felt uncomfortable with what Jesus is talking about. Peter is just speaking for them. And so Jesus says to the whole lot of them, "If any of you want to become my followers, you don't go pick up your trophy. You don't go pick up your medals. You don't get your diploma on the wall. If you want to become my followers, you go take up your cross and you follow me." Remember, hear those words as Peter and the disciples prior to Easter. I mean, they have no idea what's coming. But before, we obviously, Christians today, we exalt the cross and we carry in the cross and we wear crosses and we have lovely crosses, beautiful crosses, needle pointed into kneelers. Like, the cross is like a beautiful thing for us. Prior to Easter, the cross was an instrument of death. When Jesus says, "Take up your cross and follow me," it was like, that's harsh. And then he adds to that, any who want to save their life are going to lose it. What I'm asking you to do is to lose your life for my sake. And there you will find salvation. We could probably look on Peter here with some pity. Maybe the other disciples, like, "Oh, Peter and those guys, they just don't get it. They have no idea what they're up for. They have no idea about the huge devastation Good Friday is going to be, and then the great victory Easter is going to be. And so they're still stuck in this like pre-Good Friday, pre-Easter mindset. And yet, I really wonder if they're all that much different from us. Wouldn't we all rather just skip over the Good Friday stuff and get right to Easter? I think so. And you know why I think that? Look at the attendance figures for Good Friday and Easter Sunday. It's 20-1, easily. Most of us would far just rather just like skip over that uncomfortable, sad stuff and get right to the party. Don't most of us want to be a part of a faith that's like self-fulfilling, where I get to come and like be a better version of myself and where I get things? One of the common phrases that has entered into our language is church shopping. A lot of you have church shopped. I've church shopped. That whole concept of I'm looking for a church that's going to meet our needs, right? Because church is about meeting my needs. Don't we want to belong to a religion that is respectable? Don't we want to belong to a church that's respectable, with a respectable priest up front and very fine, respectable people sitting in its pews? And Jesus says, throw all of that away. Take up your cross and follow me. You try and save yourself, you're going to lose yourself. You want to save yourself? Lose yourself first. Over 2,000 years of our Christian faith, we've had lots of internal fights, lots of Christian on Christian arguments back and forth about various things, all manner of things over 2,000 years. And because of that, there's been schism after schism after schism, church split after church split, to the point where there's like a couple thousand denominations of Christians in America today. But one of the things that has united us over the last 2,000 years, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Pentecostal, evangelical, charismatic, East, West, one of the things that Christians have been pretty good about proclaiming in word and deed for 2,000 years is that part of our faith is about serving others. That part of the way we lose ourselves in order to save ourselves is by putting others before us. That we first love God, and then we love our neighbor who God loves. And we particularly serve those who are in great need. If there is someone who is hungry in our midst, we make sure that they are fed. If there is an orphan in our midst, we make sure that they have a home. If there is someone who is sick in our midst, we make sure that they are cared for. It's why over the course of the last 2,000 years, the origin story of most of the hospitals and clinics and orphanages that have existed, they came out of the church. Christians have been the ones who have walked into the fire to save others. When a plague would erupt, the Christians were the ones who stayed right in the midst of the city, in the midst of the plague, to minister to the needs of others. Of all the things we have gotten wrong over 2,000 years, this is one of the things that we have gotten right. And I think it stems right from this awkward moment with Jesus and Peter and the disciples, where Jesus bids the disciples not just to join a winning team, but to be willing to lose with a team before we win. We at St. Mark's do this in many ways. Many of you have baked meatloaves to send down to Keansburg. Some of you have gone to Keansburg itself to serve the lunches. Some of you are willing to go and plant and weed and pick vegetables at the garden that feeds many people in food banks and food pantries in our local community. Some of you are involved in curbing hunger. Some of you are involved with Home. That is, every once in a while, we help house and feed local homeless families. One of the new things that we have done over the last year, and it was brought to us by one of our own parishioners, Bruce. You may not recognize him. He's an 8 o'clocker. I know that's like a totally different thing for those of us who show up to church at 10. But I assure you, he's sitting right over there every 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings. He has brought to us Compassion International and finding ways to connect with children living in extreme poverty in the third world. I'm going to invite Bruce up to talk for a moment or two, but before that, I'm going to show you a brief video of some, not all, but some of the people who sponsored children from St. Mark's last year.
Hi everyone, I'm Susan and I sponsor Elise.
Our family sponsors Emily, who lives in Ecuador.
I'm Barbara, and I sponsor Diana.
My name is Elliot. I sponsor Lightness and Victor.
I sponsor two children. One is Webb Nelson from Haiti, and the other is Kina Gudina from Ethiopia.
Good morning, I'm Kristen. Last year we chose to sponsor a 14-year-old girl in Southeast Asia through Compassion. We've enjoyed receiving her updates over the year and contributing to her overall well-being and future.
And I've really enjoyed the experience of getting to know Elise through his letters. Many of them are often written by his mother as well. And I decided to give a Christmas gift this year. And after receiving the Christmas gift, he was able to get a mattress, some toothbrush and toothpaste, and often I hear about little things that he's able to get along the way from the money that I'm sending to him. And we exchange letters, and he often says that he's praying for me, which is just so beautiful to imagine that I made a connection to someone that I don't know, but I do know with the money that I'm giving and the relationship that I've built, he feels cared for and his family feels cared for, and it means a lot all the time.
One of the things I really like about Compassion is how personal it is. It's not just money into a big pot, you don't know where it goes to, but you have an actual relationship with an actual person. And whenever the child we sponsor, Emily, writes to us, she always calls us her God family, which I just love.
I have lived in West Africa, and I know what it's like for kids to live in poverty. So it was especially meaningful to me to see someone like this who's getting a hand up, because that's what they all need.
It's very meaningful to me to do this. There's so much hurt in the world. I can't do everything, but I can do something. And so this is what I've chosen to do.
One of the things that brought me to this is that I've given to different charities, and the one thing that gives me the most pleasure is knowing that I'm sponsoring a particular individual who I could correspond with, and that gives me a lot of pleasure, because these kids really appreciate what we do.
Bruce.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Last year we was our first year, and we got 8 kids sponsored. 6 different members of the church sponsored them, and I have sponsored 2 for several years, so that makes 10 that we have total, and we want to see if we can build that. You know, for those who don't know about Compassion International, it's a Christian charity dedicated to releasing children from poverty in Jesus' name. It's highly rated by a group called Charity Watch. It's a watchdog organization, and Compassion is listed as a top charity. Last year, they served over 2.3 million children in the world. They have over 150,000 volunteers that act as teachers in the church, those local churches, and they also act as life coaches. We have a total, a little over 15,000 churches that are associated with compassion. One particular church, and this one I'm very proud of, in 2018, my son and his wife, Sean and Elizabeth, started a foundation. They raised money, and they built a church in the Dominican Republic. A few months ago, that particular church excuse me, signed on with Compassion, and I'm proud to say that today we have 8 kids in our display upstairs that are looking for sponsors. And one of the things I want to do is encourage you to stop up. There's coffee and refreshments upstairs. Take a look at our display. Take a look at the kids that are looking for sponsors. And even if you can't sponsor somebody, there's ways that you can contribute. Some of the things that these kids do, one of my boys, with the money I've sent, has purchased 3 goats. And things like that teach these kids how to care for another life, teaches them some discipline, and so there's a catalog there that you can pick out any of those things. So with that, I would strongly encourage you to stop by, take a look at what we have, and maybe you can connect with one of those children. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to us, Bruce, and welcome to the 10 o'clock service. Come back anytime.